Hello, my name is Debbie, owlandgatorstitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 43. Today is Thursday, November 17th, 2022. This is a video mainly about cross stitch, sometimes about what I'm reading and watching and life thrown in. So if you're a new viewer, welcome. I hope that you like what you see. And if you do, you click on that subscribe button. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate that you come and watch my videos every time I put one out. I know I am not the most consistent person. I try and do it every 2 weeks, but sometimes life happens, the good and the bad, and there's a little bit more time. And it's been about 3 weeks since my last video. So what's been going on for the past 3 weeks? I attended a cross stitch retreat in early November. I think I mentioned that in my last video that I was planning to attend, and it was a lot of fun. For sort of retreats that are open to the public, it was a little bit smaller. It was about 50 people, and it was held in a hotel. And the person who organized the retreat is also an employee at the hotel. So it's really great to have someone who works at the hotel, because it just means that the hotel is much, can be very responsive to our needs, whatever they might be. And it was just a great time to have fellowship with fellow stitchers and just to get to meet a lot of new people. So I have met some of the people at the retreat last year because I also attended this retreat last year. But it was also great to meet new people. There are some people that I've communicated with whether through YouTube or Instagram or other social media that I've never met in person. So it was great to finally meet them. And just new people that I, who didn't know who I am and I didn't know who they were. And it was still just great to meet them and chat with them. So that was a lot of fun. And if I keep looking in that direction, it's because my cat and you can probably hear her rustling. She has decided it's time to investigate all the cross stitch supplies. So anyhow, I'm now very distracted by her, and I apologize for that. She's going to the vet later today, so I'll exact my revenge then. So anyhow, and also right now, I am sorry for the mess that you can kind of see here. I am redoing this space that is my cross stitch room or craft room slash guest bedroom / the cat's room. We all kind of hang out in here. And I was hoping I was going to have a brand new desk that I could film on and have a proper chair to sit on. And that didn't happen. So not very happy with Wayfair right now, but hopefully by the time I do my next video, that issue will be resolved. So things are in piles and I've got a lot of boxes in here. But I did spend a lot of time over the past couple of weeks as well, reorganizing my floss. I've mentioned, went for my DMC. I just have a master set that I work from, and I wasn't really happy with the way they were stored. So I spent a lot of time redoing that. And at some point I will try and give you a little tour of my crafting space so that you can see sort of how I've redone it. But besides that, I am also, was it last, or I think it was last week. It's like time flies. So I also served as an election worker again last week. So that was about a 15-hour day. But it's something that since I retired, it's one of those things that I really wanted to do. I really believe in the importance of democracy, and I was a nonpartisan poll worker. So I'm the person who checks to make sure that you're on the registration list when you come to vote, and direct people either where they go in the polling station after they check in, or tell them, I'm sorry, you're not in the right place. And unfortunately in Florida right now, that's what happens. If you show up at a polling place and if you're not registered there, you have to go to the correct precinct on the day that you're actually voting. And I know in other states that's not the case. And also even in where I live, we do have in-person early voting. And if you go there, they just print out the ballot appropriate for where you live and you just go vote. But on election day, you have to be in the right place. So it is what it is. But I'm really glad I had that opportunity and was able to give a little bit back to my community in that regard. And then I believe 2 days later, Tropical Storm Nicole came overhead. And for us, it was basically a lot of rain, but it wasn't torrential rain. Tropical Storm Elsa in the summer of 2021 actually gave us a lot more rain and flooded quite a bit in my town, not in my neighborhood, but some areas very close to us did have houses that were flooded and things like that. This didn't cause any of that. There were winds, and sort of houses across the street from mine sort of have very large pine trees right behind them, and I was sort of watching the wind blow them, side to side like this. But pine trees are quite flexible, and they did not break. So we made it through that unscathed. Everything was basically shut down for about 24 hours in my town to prepare for the storm, which is a good thing because you don't know how much flooding there is going to be, and there are places that do have localized flooding, and you don't want kids on school buses and all of that, and just all the havoc that can be caused. So made it through that, and other than that, I've just been doing a lot of stitching. So I'm going to go ahead and start showing you what I've been working on. So for those of you who watched, before I do that, I want to announce my giveaway winner. So I did the poll before I started this video. So if you recall from my last video, and this was in honor of getting past 750 subscribers, I had a couple of two vintage magazines and one chart. And I did the random comic picker before I filmed this video. And the winner was Verpy R. So congratulations, Verpy. I have an address for you, but it's probably about a year old. So if you could confirm for me that you haven't moved in the past year, I'll be happy to get these off to you. So thank you to everyone who entered, and thank you to everyone who is subscribed. I've really loved doing these videos and interacting with you on all the comments. It's been a lot of fun. Okay, so now on to the most exciting part. So I think many of you who watched my last video and have been watching my videos consistently know I was pushing for a finish. And basically, I don't want to say all my stitching went to the wayside except for this piece, but most of my stitching did. So WIPGO goals and challenge groups and all of that. I did what I could to keep up if I had to meet prompts, but I really always just kept coming back to this. So I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. And I have finished. Ta-da! This is High Intensity, the cropped version, and this is charted by Artecy, and it's based on artwork by Agnew. So I just love this piece. I started this in, I believe, February 2020, so before the pandemic, but it was sort of how to put it? I made a decision to do for Full Coverage Fanatics. I decided I wanted to join in one of their challenges. So I just purchased the pattern from Artecy sort of on a whim, and I needed immediately to start it, and with the supplies I had. So I had a 14 count ivory Aida in my stash. So that's what I used. It's all DMC colors. Everything's charted. And so this is about 42,000 stitches. So it is not as big as it looks. I mean, this is it next to me. So like stitch wise, it's not huge for a full coverage. Size wise, because it's 14 count, it is. I can't do the measurements on the top of my head, but certainly more than a foot long. So more than 30 centimeters, and probably a foot or 30 centimeters across. So I can't do the math in my head right now. I'm not great at eyeballing measurements, but so anyhow, you can get a really good look at his face. And this was the area that I have been working on to finish it up. So I'm just really happy with it. I think this is definitely one of these that when I look at it really up close, especially some of the background areas, the detail isn't perfect. But as soon as you hold it back, a meter or 3 feet or whatever, where you're going to look at it, all of that detail just pops. Your eye takes care of sort of blurring the edges and all of that. And so I am really, really happy with this. He still needs a bath. And I know some people get all worried about putting tape on the edges, and I don't really do that anymore. I have to be honest. Thanks to Flosstube, although I'm not entirely convinced that putting tape on it is the end of the world, because this is not touching my stitching at all. And I probably will, rather than peel off the tape, I probably will just cut it off. There's more than 3 inches all the way around. I'm going to take this to a professional framer. They will be fine to do it. With the 2.5 or 2 3/4 inches. I'm not getting a mat or anything like that. So I'm just going to hold this up again because I'm so happy that I am done with it. And this was one of my major goals this year, was to get a finish on this. So very happy that I achieved my goal. and I finished it. I had planned it out so it would get done in December, but when I realized I was close, I just put my head down and didn't. So I'm very, very happy with it. So again, High Intensity by Artecy. So you won't get to see that as a project, an ongoing project anymore. Okay, so I also wanted to, while I was working on that, one of my challenge groups, we had to do a thing where we had to work on a piece with a cat, and by cat she meant like a domestic cat, not like the one that's making a little noise over there. A domestic cat, and she was very clear, like not a large cat. So unfortunately, High Intensity didn't meet. But it wasn't like do 300 stitches and then go do whatever you want. It was like do some stitches, then do what you want, then you need another cat. So this was one of the pieces that I used to go and sort of whenever I had to stitch on a cat. And this is one Gone Batty with a needle and thread by Brenda Gervais. So here, I'll try and get it. So this was the first time I touched it this year. And part of my reticence in pulling it out. But I had run out of, I don't know if I had 2 skeins or maybe it was just 1 skein, but the color in this cat I had run out, and it was like 2/3 of the bottom row. And of course, as you know, it's a over dyed floss, and when it's like that, you always worry about, is it going to match? And so it was like, oh, I don't, stitch this whole cat. And I was sort of like, well, I'll just pick out the bottom row of the cat, like if it really doesn't match. But I finally said, just do it. And I did it, and I can't tell the difference. So that's, so the whole bottom row of the cat, you can get up close there and see. So basically what I did that time, in addition to finishing about 2/3 of that bottom row in the cat, so that cat is now completely done. I then came over and I had part of this, like this flower done. I think I actually had all the orange part and a little bit of the stem. So I came over and finished the stem here and did the stem on this flower. And then you can see I did that. And then I did this bat over here. And you can see in the picture there, the bat is meant to be cut off like that. So that bat is completely done. So a lot of fun stitch. My English is shot. This stitch is a lot of fun, and I'm glad I had a chance to pull it out, and I overcame my hesitancy and was able to complete that cat. And I'm going to say what all stitchers say. There's not that much left. It shouldn't take me so long. This bat is done. So the really big motif I have left to do is that bat. Not sure when I'll work on this again, but now that I've sort of overcome what I needed to overcome, I now feel that I'll be more likely to pull this one out again. And it's a cute little pattern. Okay, and then the next one that I worked on a little bit was, this is Magic Study, the rainbow version, charted by Heaven and Earth Design, artwork by Rose Kahn. So there's a lot of people up here. And I put in mostly 550, a little bit of I think 210. But what that really allowed me to do here was I had a lot of stitches that weren't done up here. So now this is all solid up to whatever this is. I think it's a little dragon. Other people think it's a butterfly. It might be a moth. Whatever this flying creature is, all the stitches in this area are done. And then also allows this negative space is some sort of lighting, like a string of lights. That's the best way to say it. So now that's in the negative space here. So so I'll be able to get to that. And then one of my challenges, I needed to put in some 210 in any project. So you've got these little patches here. And of course, in typical fashion, there are over 6,000 stitches that call for 210, and there were only about 100 in this area. So go figure. But that was a lot of fun to pull this out and just work on it for a day. And I got in about 500 stitches. The next piece that I worked on, or I want to show you, this is Mother of Dragons, artwork by Alexander Bach, charted by Paine Free Crafts. And I'm still stuck in what I'm going to call the very boring parts. So I was thinking, do I just go for a page finish and then move? And I decided to go for the page finish, which I didn't get finished, but I'm getting close. So basically I worked sort of, I think actually everything was 934. So a very, very dark green. And what that is this is, yeah, I'm looking at the picture. This is actually one wing of the dragon, and then this is the other wing of the dragon. So I put a lot of stitches into this wing, and then because I was working with 934, I just went, and so I did color complete on this page, I think with 934. This is actually the next page, but this is like a column in the castle. So I put that in. So really not much to see right now. I think, as I keep saying, I am going to come down here eventually and work on the dragon head directly so I can actually see some content and not just background in this one. So I'll be really looking forward to sort of seeing a little bit more detail come out in that piece. I also wanted to work a little bit on Autumn and Stars Hollow. And this is from the Black Needle Society. They've got they will have a total of 4 boxes, one for each season. So I've gotten I've gotten the summer and the autumn. I've ordered the spring, but it won't come until 2023. And I am going to do these all as one piece. I'm still stuck on the first one, but basically this is. I guess I don't know exactly what building this is, if this is the Dragonfly Inn or this is the place where Luke's is. It's not entirely clear to me. But nonetheless, I basically just pulled in this color here. So I got a couple of the window frames in for these two and filled in a lot of the sort of gray here. Also worked on this, and I spent a lot of time staring at that, trying to figure out what that is. And it's clear there's a little kitty in there. There's a little kitty there. And I just think it's supposed to be an abstract person holding a cat, because that definitely looks like legs there. And I'm not 100% sure why. I know that in the Gilmore Girls, the neighbors had a cat that occasionally had a role to play, but move the plot along. But it's not something that I think of necessarily when I think of the Gilmore Girls in the way that, Gail or the gazebo or Luke's or even the cornstarch, that sort of are motifs that I would associate more with the Gilmore Girls. But, I love cats, so if I have to stitch a cat, I'm all for it. So anyhow, that's the progress I made on that. So one of my Whip Go pieces this month is a Sunset Koala. And this is charted by the Cross Stitch Studio. And there's a Dizzy Stitcher, Darren, in, I think, 2021, started a stitch along for this. And I think a lot of us are sort of in this, it's a gorgeous pattern with gorgeous colors. But I think a lot of us work on a lot of different things. So like a lot of people, I'm still on the ear. I mean, I have some people who have done a lot more. So, but I'm in the ear. So I've come in, I put in, I think, about 700 stitches. A lot of it, some of the purples, and then the pinks getting around the ear. So I know if I didn't tell you that was an ear, you wouldn't know what it is. But that's where I am in the pattern. So having a lot of fun with this one. And again, it is charted as a full coverage with all this part around is supposed to be white. I will not be doing that. I'm going to leave it natural. So of course, according to Pattern Keeper, I'm like 47% done with just this, and that's not real. But so it's a little. I'm obviously doing Pattern Keeper. I'm very happy with doing that, but I can't track how much I've actually done through that. All right, so then I pulled this one out. It's been a long time since I've worked on this one. This is O Joyous Day by Blackbird Designs. And so I just wanted to have a chance to work on this one a little bit more. And so what I did this time, so I had done the outline, but you can see is the outline of the bird. I had done that before, and I had done like some of the stuff up here, but not all of it. And so what I did, you can't really see them very well. But those little stitches there are actually Smyrna crosses, but they are just over 2 Smyrna crosses. So like where you would normally put a normal size X, that's all they are. So they don't really look like much of anything. I mean, you can see that there's color there when you look at it, but you can't really tell that it's a Smyrna cross. It's not really that big. But then I also wanted to finish the alphabet up there. Again, I had some letters done, so I finished them. And then as I had color on my needle, if there was other things down here. So some of these motifs, this is a little sprig that the bird is holding. And I had done this D before, and that D is actually, I don't know, it's in the wrong location. And I'm just going to leave it unless I put everything else in and it looks really, really bad. So, and then I was at the point, not that these letters are hard or anything, but, you just got to pay attention, make sure you're counting correctly. And I was at the point where I just want to do some fill in. So you can see it if I get a little bit closer. I did fill in here on the tail and then almost halfway up that part of the tail. Glad I had a chance to pull this one out. It's been a while. I was so focused on high intensity and a few other pieces that some of my other pieces that I do really want to work on and get a finish on were a little bit neglected. So the next piece, another Whipco piece that I want to show you. This is the Blue Flower, Huckleberry Farm. So I'm still more or less on page 1, even though I love, love, love this chart. When I say I'm on page 1, I'm so close to being done on page 1. So this time, I think the letter Q is on page 1. So I did the Q, and then because I had the color there, I just went and did a few more letters. I did this little motif here, discovered somewhere along here, I've got I think my E is 1 stitch too close to the D, and we're just going to leave it. But I'll just remember it so that when I start my next, I think it's another alphabet. I think it's the G here. I don't think it's something else here. I'll just remember to start that 1 stitch over, and that way when I get to the end, it will look a little bit more balanced. Also, and I think this is a chipmunk. There were 2 stitches on page 1, so this is already coming down to the page below, and it's the same. There's a little basket here, so I will, I'm pulling down. I'm not just sort of stopping at page 1. I am pulling down as I finish it. And then I think on these little buds here, you can see these are completed buds and they are 2 colors. And I've got one of the colors here and I'm missing the second color. So I need to go in. So I have very little left to do on page 1, but because of the way I'm stitching and I want, I'm going to, whatever this brownish color is here, I'm going to finish that color, in the chipmunk before I move on and say work on the basket or work on finishing these buds. So even though it's probably about 20 stitches left on page 1, there'll be more. But I do intend to work on this for the remainder of November to get my page completion, which will be very exciting. So that is Huckleberry Farm. And then the next piece is one that I really wanted to take to the retreat because the fabric it is dyed on. It is from Valkyrie Fabrics. She is the one who organized the retreat. And I don't think she's dyeing fabrics anymore. Her job keeps her very, very busy. But it's just stunning fabric. And I wanted her, I went and showed her where I was. So that is Reading is Magical. And this is from, I believe, the December 2020. I don't have the cover right with me. From The World of Cross Stitch. And it's the designer is Doreen Jones. You'll see it when I show up, but there's a number of modifications. I did a lot of color changes to this to match the fabric. Another change, you can see the red. There is some shadowing to the letters. And I spent a lot of time I changed the letters to pink. And I tried to find the right way to shadow the pink, and I couldn't find the right shade. And when I sort of came to the conclusion was, part of the reason why the shadowing looks so great here is the fabric choice she's made. So this dark red sort of fades into the fabric, and the pink where it is on my fabric wouldn't really do that. And so what I made a decision on was not to do any shading. So I just did the one pink, and I will just, when I get to sort of doing those blue stitches that you see around the sun, I will just fill in I won't have negative space. I won't have gaps. I'm sorry, I'm just picking something up here. But I'll extend the blue. So what I did this time was basically I I think I was working with the yellow, so I put some of the yellow here, came across here, and did a lot on the sun. So you can now see I'm not done with the sun yet, but you can see his face really starting to emerge. And I know some people are creeped out by faces on the sun, but it doesn't bother me. So, and then going back to what the game I was talking about where I had to do cats. So while I was at the retreat, I had to keep, I'm dying to finish High Intensity. And I did finish it at the retreat, and I got, to get up there and ring the bell and do all of that. But then I'd have to stop and be like, because I was doing rolls. And I would get a roll, and I'd have to go back to the cat, die rolling. And so this was the piece I had taken with me, and part of the reason why, just because it's easy. It's on Aida. It's getting close to the holidays. So this is Christmas Cat from also the same issue of the World of Cross Stitch. And I think this is still from when they actually put dates on it. So I do think it's December 2020. So little cute kitty. And I made I don't want to say mistake, but I knew I had a lot of these before I left home. I didn't want to carry all my colors with me. So I pulled out the colors that I thought I would need to stitch with. And I thought, I have thousands of this. I can't remember if this is 161 or something like that, but I knew I had I thought I had thousands of the stitches to do. And I knew they were half stitches, but I'm like, this will more than cover me for, have enough. Well, of course, if you play the games on Facebook, most groups say you have to do 2 half stitches in order to do a stitch. So if you have to do 150 stitches to meet, a challenge prompt, and you get, you need to do 300. Well, all I can say is I had a little bit of this. So I had this bit done, I think this chunk, and maybe a teeny bit here, a few rows. I did all of this here, all of this up here, and basically I ran out of spaces to use 161, and yet I still needed to stitch on the cat. And I was desperately looking for some 712. Which are these cat feet here. I had done 1 foot already, but because I wanted a chunk of color. And so there were a couple vendors there, and one person had some floss, but she didn't have the whole DMC collection. And so she didn't have any 712. So I was like, oh, but then very kindly the vendor, just from her own stash, cut out a length. She had some 738. So I was able to get that in. And I was working a little bit on the plane on that. And then I came home and was able to get my own 712 and got the other foot of the cat. So this got some great unexpected progress, more progress than I thought. And I'm just happy I can see these 2 feet in the negative space of the toe beans. So that is Christmas Cat. And then the last project that I'm going to show you that I worked on, show in almost every video, and that is Cats in the Toy Box. Artwork by Lesley Anne Ivory, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. And I'm working down in this section here. And here's where I am. So not quite done with this teddy bear, but mostly done with both of the teddy bears. So all I have left to do is the foot of this one, basically, and there may be a couple ninja stitches in there that I have to go back and look for. And then, and I don't know why I was fixated on I need to get the teddy bear done. I don't know why. I think I must have I think when I had COVID and I was into easier stitching, there is more block stitching in here. And this bit of the carpet is just, it's very confetti heavy. So I think you can see where some of the carpet and the motifs in the carpet have come out. It does look great, but whenever I made that decision to start working on the teddy bear, I still was kind of tired and whatever. So, and then even though I'm mostly over COVID, I still have a little bit of a cough, but all my other symptoms are totally gone. I just kept going with the teddy bear. But anyhow, so I think it's looking great. So this is the bottom corner. So obviously I've got the border all the way done down here. At some point I did the blue. I think I did that before. I, at this point, probably will finish the inside stitching of the teddy bear. Obviously, as you start to get here, is this the shadow of the teddy bear? Is this the edge of the teddy bear? I don't know. I am not going to worry about it. I'm just going to then start pulling it and start working on working on that carpet and the bottom border a little bit more and bring it over so I can move the Q-snap. So that is Cats in the Toy Box. So those are all of the projects that I have to show you. Before I get in and show you, of course, I was at a retreat, so I do have quite a bit to show you that I got at the retreat. But I think my next two videos are going to be a little bit different. I think my next video is going to be a planning video for 2023. And I think I'm going to radically change. Well, I shouldn't say radically. I'm going to be stitching, but just try and get into a little bit of a different mindset on how I'm going to stitch. And I want to have a chance to share that with all of you and would love to give your feedback. So I think I am going, I need to bake that a little bit more and put it in the oven. And, but we all will get to test it before it comes out. So I think that is what my next video is going to be. And next week is Thanksgiving in the US. So I won't do it then. I won't do it next week, but I'll do it the week after. And then I do want to do a whip parade after that. I do have a couple pieces that I haven't touched yet this year. And so I would like to get some stitches on them before I get to the whip parade. Because I do want to, I had sort of, I had 4 goals this year and I've met 2 of them. One of them was to finish High Intensity, which I did. One of them was to get to 70% on Cats in the Toy Box, which I hit over the past week. So I'm at 70 point something percent, not quite 71, but getting close to that. So I achieved that. I can't remember how many finishes I wanted to get, not anymore close to that. So that's not a goal I'm going to achieve. And I also wanted to touch every whip. So I have 2 whips that I haven't touched yet, and there might be more. But like more, maybe like 1 or 2 more. So I've hit most of them. But anyhow, I hope that you will join me for my next video, which is a planning video. And if you are not into seeing acquisitions, I understand. And there's quite a bit here. But for those of you who are staying, thank you. I have a lot to show you. Some of it is generosity, and some of it is things that I have purchased. So the first thing I want to show you is I put this under the category of generosity. So when I finished High Intensity, I, of course, was so excited and I posted it all over social media, quite a few groups on Facebook and on Instagram. And one of the places I posted on Facebook was in the Artecy group. So one that is organized and moderated by the person who owns Artecy. And they have a program that if you are the first person to finish a piece and will put it into their gallery, they will basically give you a voucher for something of the same size. So because that was a cropped version, and Artecy does have it that their cropped versions are a little bit less expensive. So I got a voucher basically for another crop. And so I picked this one. So thank you to Tarina and the folks at Artecy for your generosity. And so this is little raccoons. It's called Bonnie and Clyde, and I think it's really cute. I do like raccoons. I know some people think, call them trash pandas, and they get really annoyed with them. But I think that, they do play a vital role in the ecosystem. And we do have some, I don't see raccoons like right outside my house, but certainly in wooded areas very close to where I live, we do have raccoons. And this one is called Bonnie and Clyde. And I guess this is Bonnie and Clyde, and this is the poor mother who has to put up with them. And part of the reason why I like that name as well is my parents had a pair of cats named Bonnie and Clyde. They have crossed the Rainbow Bridge many years ago, but I think that name just sort of reminded me of that as well. So in addition to liking the artwork, I think I liked the name as well. So I got this one. So thank you again to Tarina and Artecy. Next thing I want to show you, this was a giveaway I won from Carla at Cobweb Corner. So this is fabric. I'm going to put my glasses on really quickly so I can see what the count is. Yeah, so this is a 20 count lugana, and it's a fat quarter. So in sort of a light green, mint green color. So don't have ideas off the top of my head what I'll use it for, but it's nice to have colored fabric, and it's from Zweigart. It's quite soft. Like sometimes I find their fabrics can be stiff, but this one is quite soft. So it'd be great to add to my fabric stash, and when I need something with a little color, this will be a great one to pull out. And then in the group, which was called No New Starts 2022, and it has now changed its name to Whip Warriors. And by the way, I think it's they closed it at the beginning of 2022, and they've reopened it with the name Whip Warriors. But I know they're going to close it again at some point because the moderators just don't want to have an overwhelming number of people. The moderators are very active in the group, and I think at a certain point they can't do what they want for the group if there's too many people in it. So anyhow, and there's also a road trip, a separate group. But if you're in the main group, you can join the road trip version, where basically you're virtually visiting cross-stitch stores across the United States. And so we had a pop-up challenge that came up in that, and those participating in the pop-up challenge, and there was the pop-up challenge, and then there was the extra part of the pop-up challenge, and I decided to do the extra part of the pop-up challenge. And those of us who participated in that, they decided to do the people. I think there were only like 8 of us who did it. That they were going to give prizes, and for 5 of us. And so I was one of the names that was drawn. And so and basically in that group, a lot of people have made a lot of very generous donations of cross-stitch things that they no longer want or need. And so they've been giving them out as prizes. And so they're like, if you want one of these, just go, choose which one you want. And so this is the one that I chose. And this is called We Winter Friends. It's by Joan Elliott Designs. And it's a very small one. It's definitely we for lack of a better word. It's 54 by 54, so it is a square, but it is quite small. But I think it's really cute. Joan Elliott is a very talented designer, and even with that small size, just the detail in that. I'm not entirely sure why it's winter. I guess these little things are snowflakes, but if you kept them away, it would just be we friends. But anyhow, really cute pattern. So thank you to Carla, who is doing the road trip. So thank you very much for that. And then I won a giveaway a while ago from Suki, the Brown-Eyed Stitcher. And when she pulled my name, I just said, I am going to see. I knew she was going to the retreat. And I said, just if you're willing to hold on to it, why don't you just hold on to it and I'll pick it up from you at the retreat rather than you spending money on sending it to me. So she was fine with that. So these are and she was doing like a huge clean out. And so I know this is one that I definitely won. And I don't know if I won the second one or someone just didn't claim it. So she gave it to me. But this is one called The Oceans. It's from Cross My Heart. These are kind of older patterns, but I do have at least one other book, if not 2 other books by Cross My Heart. And they're just really cute little patterns. So as you can see, lots of ocean scenes. And there's even more. So none of them are terribly large, but nice little ocean scenes. And then also something called the Porch Swing from Paul Levon. So nice little scene. And then this retreat had a freebie table, and I had the item I brought for the freebie table was not actually a pattern; it was something else, and it didn't even make it to the freebie table because someone at my table really, really wanted it. So I'm like, take it. I'm just happy that someone will find a use for this. But I was really fortunate. I go by the freebie table and, there's a lot of great things and some really not to my taste. But, you also don't want to hoover, I'm using my husband's word. You don't want to pull everything up. You want to give a chance to everyone. So I go by and maybe I take one. And then it was like Friday. And then I mentioned something about lavender and lace, and someone said, oh, there's some lavender and lace patterns up there. And I was like, and there were 3 totally unopened lavender lace patterns, but I just took one. And I said, if by the end of the retreat, no one's taken the other ones, I'll take them. But, so they were both gone by the time that happened. But then this first one that I'm going to show you, I was really, really excited. And it showed up towards the end of the retreat, or at least I didn't see it before, but I think it's a gold collection by Dimensions, full kit. It has been opened. You can see that someone has opened it. But when I took a peek inside, it appears it has the fabric and the floss and the pattern in it. So someone clearly opened it and decided they weren't going to do this, or they thought they were going to do it and they never got around to it. But I think it's absolutely beautiful. I really like, especially like the bells and stuff on it. I know they have quite a few floral wreaths, and I just think that the bells add a really nice touch to this one. So I'm really, really happy to add this to my collection. And then, as I mentioned, the lavender and lace. So this is one I picked up, and it's called, Angel of Hope. So really pretty there. And then, and I think that is all I picked up from the freebie table. And again, there were other things I thought about, and and then just said, gotta share the love. But then there were also, before I get to that, I will show one other. Now I'm getting into my actual purchases. So I'm in the Bird Crush Club by Lindy Stitches. And so this is the November bird, and it is the violet green swallow. So really, really beautiful bird. I mean, they're all beautiful, but really good. And then this is what the actual cross stitch pattern looks like. And with all of her, as part of the club, you get, she incorporates one over dyed floss into the pattern. And she's using Threadworks for all of this, and she sends it. Interesting for this one, it's not in the bird. It's the piece of wood or the porch corner or whatever the bird is standing on. So not in the bird itself. So that is the Bird Crush Club. Okay, now for what I purchased at the retreat. So Sammy from Tiny Hummingbird Stitchery was there, and so that was the only store that had patterns. As far as I'm aware, there aren't really any cross stitch stores in the Dayton area. I think there is one in Columbus, which is about, I think they told me 45 minutes away. And then obviously Keepsakes in Cincinnati, which is about a little over an hour away from what I heard. So, but nothing that you were just gonna be let's go a 10-minute ride down the road and go cross stitch, go shopping. But Sammy brought a lot of her things. And so I did end up buying a Q-snap. And then the other thing I purchased from her was Plum Street Samplers, and this is Hedgerow. So a stack of hedgehogs. So I have a number of these patterns. I'm not going to collect them all. There are so many of them, but I do like these little animal stacks that they have. And then she was not at the retreat itself, but to Live and Dye in LA. She has a Facebook group where she hand dyes fabrics and flosses. And she sent just a huge box, or I think 2 boxes of fabric and floss to be sold at the retreat. And so the first piece of fabric I picked up is this one, and it's called, I should actually memorize these before maybe I'll just leave my glasses on. This is called, it looks like pensive. So I don't know if it's supposed to be pensive or if pensive means something. I don't know what it means. But it's this beautiful opalescent sort of blues and blacks. And it's an 18-count Aida. And then I also bought this floss. So I need to do a floss toss, but I do believe that I am going to use this for my Haunted Mansion South. So I think last video I showed you a couple of options, and one of them, for most of it, I really liked it. And then there was a moon, and the moon was like these oranges and yellows, a little bit brighter, and it was in DMC. So like the orange was 742, and this is a paler one. And this is called Candy Corn. This is also from To Live and Die in LA. So everyone was using fancy floss for the moon. So I thought, everyone's using fancy floss for the moon. I'm going to use fancy floss for this round robin. But I thought this one would be perfect for it. But I didn't like it. I had sort of a pink and a blue, and I didn't love this going on the pink, even though I like the pinkish purple for the rest of it. And so I thought, okay, the blue, but then I saw this. And as long as I do a floss toss, I don't have to change too many colors. I think this is the one I'm going to go for. And then I also thought, as I'm collecting everything, because apparently all I'm ever going to do is stitch for the rest of my life, I have a number of, I now have in my full collection the 4 Celtic seasons. I don't have the Christmas one right now. I don't intend to do it, so she says. And I originally had kitted them up with 32 count fabric, but I've heard a lot of people say you really should do it on the 28 count because of the way that she has her beads, if you don't want them to be too crowded. And there are ways to work around it, and I know lots of people do. But I'm not that clever when it comes to those things. And so I just said, I said, let's just buy some more fabric and see if those work a little bit better. So these are the 3 colors I bought. So this is, and again, I don't know why I'd rather take these off. I can't read anything. So this is one sort of a lilac color, Winter in My Heart. This is a nice neutral, Bayou. And then this is sort of a greenish gray, Standing Stones. So these are all 28 count luganas. And they all should be back quarters. And if I did my math right, the Celtic lady should fit. And then project bags. Vicky from Stitch and Button was there. And so I've been eyeing her bags on Facebook for a long time. And I thought, okay, I want to buy one, but I try not to buy all the things. But of course, when you see them in person, you buy all the things. So the first one I bought, all of her bags are the same size, and they all are vinyl front. So this one, I love to travel. And so this one with all these different passports. And I especially like it because in addition to the American passport, you have British passports. And my husband is a dual national. So nice to have that. And then map of the world on the back. Will not be using this for my old world map because that one just needs a huge project bag. And then this one I couldn't resist. So this is a Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So the inside fabric is, I forget what they call those, but what they wear around their robe. And she was known for her lovely collection of them. And then a little RBG on the back. And then Laura was there, and she uses gorgeous fabrics for her bags. So she had a lot of smaller bags, and even though the fabrics were gorgeous, I didn't really want a small one because I just don't find them useful. But towards the very end, she had put out some more bags. So I bought this one. So the inside it's also a vinyl, and it's just black fabric. But the back of this, look at that fabric. And while her bags are sized to a certain, like she's got 5 or 6 sizes, but if you say like, I want the medium size, all of her medium ones are the same, but I think it's what's on the fabric that dictates what is used on what bag. And this is such a gorgeous scene, and I couldn't resist this bag to the point that I had to leave. I couldn't stay for like Sunday. The retreat ended at noon. I had to leave a little bit earlier because of my flight, and Alara slept in. And so I was like, is she going to get here? Because I really want this. And like asked her table, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's going to come down in a few minutes. And more than a few minutes passed. And I thought, oh, I'm going to miss this opportunity. She did come down before I left, so I was able to acquire my bag. So that is all of the stitching stuff I have to show you. And so I'm just going to, last bit I want to talk to you about is something I've watched recently. No books have inspired me, so I'm going to skip that this time. But what I have been, one thing I watched recently was called The Thing About Pam. It is on Peacock, so I know that's not the most accessible streaming service to a lot of people, but if you do have Peacock or you have another way to get a hold of watching this, it's a limited series. It's got Renee Zellweger in it as Pam, so The Thing About Pam. And it took me a while to get into the style of it. It's basically another one of these dramatizations of true crime, but this one is done very differently. It's almost, I don't want to say it's done tongue-in-cheek, and I think that's what initially bothered me, was that they were sort of a woman was murdered, and it's based on a real case. A woman was murdered and brutally stabbed multiple times, and that's not funny. But as you sort of get into it, and just the way it was done, it has a narrator for part of it, because the narrator is kind of pointing out what's wrong. And initially, her husband was arrested for the crime, and so it's one of those where, you watching it very quickly, and you start to realize like he probably didn't do it, and the police and the prosecutor are determined to get a conviction because this is a smallish town in Missouri, and they want to close this case. They don't want people, murderers running around. But it's very clear, like when you're watching it, like Pam has done this crime and how she's manipulating everything. And I think the part where you start in the role the narrator plays is that he is basically, they're not making fun of the murder, but they are basically saying, let me tell you what you're watching and how stupid are the people that they don't see themselves. Like how can they not see that this woman is so manipulating them? And it's Renee Zellweger, and she's a brilliant actor. And so, she plays the role very well. And there are some times where you think it's over the top. And then at the very end, like the last episode after it finishes, they have actual clips of some of the stuff which you think is the most over the top. And like a couple scenes in the courtroom. And she actually did this stuff in the courtroom, like said things and whatever. So you can't blame the director for the actor for doing a perfect imitation of life. So anyhow, I do recommend it. And again, I would say if you're into that kind of thing, give it an episode or two, because the first episode I was sort of like, I'm not sure, I really like Renee Zellweger. I'm not entirely sure this is for me. And by the end of it, I just thought it was really, really well done. And it takes place in Missouri, and there's an attorney from Missouri, and it's a criminal attorney. And my husband is an attorney in the St. Louis area, but does not do criminal cases. But he does do trial. So I'll be very interested if he knows this attorney next time I speak with him. But anyhow, with all that said, I have been rambling on for over 50 minutes, and my cat is freaking out behind me. So I am going to end this video. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in a couple weeks in my planning video. Happy stitching.